All right. So last time we stopped at this connection of data. Today we'll be starting to understand what tables are in Excel and how to use them. Okay. And I'll bring my exercise file sheet. I have made one sheet I call tables, basically. And so here first, the first thing here is what is a table, in fact? Um, I would say this is already a table, but in Excel terms, it's not really a table. It's just a number of values that are existing inside cells. But for us to make this a legal um, Excel table, then we have to convert it to a table, okay? And then that table can have a name, and we'll be able to reference that table by, the table columns and the content of the table. And we'll be able to reference that individually, based on the name of the column and also based on the name of the table itself. So to do that, we can, well, essentially, there are several ways to make a table. You can go to Insert and click on Table, okay? And you can see that Excel has pretty much, sense that we're trying to make a table out of this data, and it has already helped us to automatically highlight that set of data. And it says here, where is the data for your table? And you see it has selected that. And then here it has gone ahead to check that the table has header, which is actually true because we have, employee, department, task, and priority as the headers of the table, okay? And if we uncheck that, it will, still make a table, but without headers. And let's see what that looks like first. So if I click OK, now you see what I'm saying, that yes, it has kind of added some kind of styling to the data set that was selected, but it has given it some headings that are looking a bit funny, okay? This was not my intention because I wanted this to be the header of the table. And that's why it's important that when that pop-up came, that you had to select that your data has headers already, so that Excel will not give it its own kind of headers. Now, to fix that, we'll have to convert this data back to a normal range. And to do that in Excel, you can just click anywhere inside the table and click on the convert to range. So I'm inside the table design. And in fact, this tab was not there before. And in fact, it's not there if I click away from the table. You see, I don't have table design anymore. But when I click inside the table, then the table design tab comes on with its own set of commands, okay? So for me to change this table back into a range, I will have to click the convert to range button. And it's asking me, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? And I say yes. And it still kind of looks like I have my table here. But the thing is, you see that the tab that was here when I was inside the table is no longer there, which means actually the table has been removed. It's not a table anymore, but the formatting that was applied is still there, okay? Then it means I have to, do some work to return it back to how it was looking before. First thing I'll do is to, just delete this row 4, and I'll do that by just highlighting that and typing Control minus on my keyboard. Now that's gone. Now I need to get rid of these banded rows, the colors. I can highlight all of them, and I'm highlighting all of them by clicking anywhere in the group of data and typing Control A on my keyboard, and it's only highlighting this section that I have selected. And I can come to the Home tab, and under the Styles section, you can see some styles here. You can also pull it down to see more styles, but I want it to just be normal. At the moment, it kind of has this thing I don't like. So I'll just take it back to normal. And now it's back to normal, but it has kind of messed up my date format. And for that, I'll highlight all the dates by typing Control Shift down to select it. And in the on the Home tab, under the number section, you can see your date again, and it's just pretty much back to being a date. And I like to keep my dates in the middle. So now, if I wanted to change it back to a table, this time around, I want the table to have the headings that I want it to have. The first way I showed you how to do it was to come to Insert and click on Table. But the other way is to highlight all, or maybe just click anywhere in the data and type Control T on your keyboard. It does exactly the same thing. It pops up this Create Table dialog box, asking you which range of data you want to make your table, which is exactly what it did before. And in this case, I will keep this check mark on because I want the table to have headers. And I'll say, OK. And now you see it has done the right thing. I now have a table with headers. OK. And then there is a number of things we need to know about our table. First is that the table, every table has a table name. OK. If you see when I clicked out of here, that table design wasn't there. And now I click inside and I have table 4 showing here as the table name. This is also customizable. If I wanted to change it, I could say this my data is employee time writing. I can call this employee. A couple of rules. You can't have a space here, but you can have something like an underscore. I can say employee time, for example, and that's the name of my table, and just press enter. And now the table has a name, okay? So what it means is that we can also refer to this table by name. If I did Control A to highlight everything in the table, you can see in the name box here, it's showing me that employee time is what I have selected. And if I clicked away, now it shows something else. But if I click inside the table and highlight all of the cells, then you'll see employee time showing there. The other thing is, if you remember when we talked about name managers, the name manager dialog box, if you clicked on there, now you can see that employee time is now one of the names in your sheet, and it cannot actually now be referenced, and you can use it to do whatever you want to do. In addition, the columns are now, usable. You don't see the name here, but you can actually use the column address when you wanted to do other things like formulas and references and things like that within the table. Okay, any questions so far? No, okay, good. So that's how you make a table. You can either just on your keyboard select a set of data, okay? Type Control T on your keyboard, or you can go to Insert and click on Table, and the table will be automatically created. And the design of the table and things like that you can find in the Design tab, with a number of other things that we can do with this table. And we're going to proceed with those things right now. All right. So then, previously we had done things like, formatting our cells and adding filters and all kinds of things. For tables, it's very simple. You can see under the table design, you will see table style options, and you can see table styles here. At the moment, I have this, dark blue header with, some kind of checked, alternate rows. I can decide to change that to another style. Okay, you can see here the one that is selected. If I wanted it to be orange, I could select that one. I could, just play around until I found a style that I liked, say this one, for example, and I can leave it at that. Now, that's what you can do under this table styles. There's loads and loads of styles, and you can also just clear the styles if you didn't want any style, right? And it kind of looks like it was looking even before we applied any style. Okay, I'll just choose this one. And a number of things you can do with the table style itself, other than the styles here. You can decide to say maybe you don't want any header. You don't want to display the header row. You can click on that and the header row disappears, or bring it back. You can see that this one has the filter buttons already, which was what we had seen in the previous lessons, how you can have filters on your data. So tables also just provide us with custom filters that we can use. And you can also turn that off from here. You can remove the filters here. You can put it back like that. Okay, it pretty much does the same thing that you can do here. Remove it on that data and put it back, right? But in the table design, you can take also advantage of that. Here you can see, well, you can add total rows. So for example, what Excel will do is if you click on that, it will automatically detect any of the columns that has numeric data and give you a total for the data. You can see it's kind of done this subtotal function on the hours logged. Okay, we'll come to that a little bit later. And I'll just remove that for now, and now it's gone. And then there is the banded rows, right? Which is what you are seeing here. If I remove that, then the rows are not banded anymore. Okay, I'll put it back. And first column just kind of makes, your first column look like a heading as well, right? Last column, same thing, banded rows, banded columns. So if I remove the banded rows, so you can see banded columns kind of puts the bands on the columns as against how it was before when we had the bands on the rows. I think this one looks way better, but it depends on your use case. You can decide to put the bands on the rows, on the columns, as the case may be, okay? So that's how you can, customize your table and just pretty much make it look like what you want it to look like, okay? Any questions? Please feel free to ask me questions if something is not clear.
Yeah, please, I don't know if you can help me explain this. Didn't get it clearly.
The table?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
this particular table. Yeah.
yeah, okay. You know what? I'll make another table here. Let's say names and age, right? I'll say your name is Remy, right? And let's say I put my name there and Joe. Let's say age is 16, 17, 20, for example, right? Now, if at the moment this is just cells in a sheet. If I wanted this to become a table, I will highlight on all of that, go to Insert, click on Table, and then Excel already automatically highlights the area that I want to make a table, and it already gives me a header for it. And I click on OK, and now I have a table. You can see Excel has put some kind of format in the area just so that we can tell that this is not just ordinary data. This is now data that has been organized into a table. And we can know that if we click inside this area, we can see that this table design tab pops up. If I click away, it's gone. If I click in, it's back, right? With all of these set of commands that we can do, okay? And that table has a name. In this case, this one is table 5. If I click on this one is called employee time. So on this sheet, we have 2 tables essentially now, right? And you can actually just, when you're doing things in Excel, you can reference the table by its name, okay? And yeah, that's basically it. The table, has a name. You can change the name. For example, this is, I would say attendees, for example, training attendees. And now if I click away and I click inside the table, you can see that the table name is attendees, right? So this one's called attendees. This one's called employee time. And you can style it the way you wish by If I didn't like the way that was looking, I could make it look like this, and now it's looking a little bit different, or I don't know, like this, or maybe like this, as the case may be, okay? And then on this table style section, you can decide to hide the header. If you don't want it, you can make the first column kind of look like the header, right? Or the last column, or you can remove, if you don't like the bands, you can remove the banded rows. Now you don't have any bands anymore, right? Click inside, put it back. Yeah, yeah, as the case may be. So, just practice it at home and try to, play around with it, and you just get the hang of it. But there are a few advantages you can get out of table, and that I will explain next as we, continue in the class. Yeah. For now, I just want you to know how to create it and how to format it. And that's so far what we have done, Remy.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
All right. Very
Yeah.
good. Okay. Yes, a few things that we can do with tables. Um, we can if I come back to, I'll just delete this one for now, or maybe I'll leave it for now. I'll go back to the table design. We can resize the table, okay? So at the moment, our table is, from, A4 to F42, okay? We can decide to say, okay, where we want to add another, couple of columns here. I'll just do that for now. And rows, I can decide to make my table a little bit bigger. If I come here and click on resize table, you can see that the table range is going from A4, which is what I said just now. A4 is this cell here, and it's going all the way to F42, which is the last cell here. And you can actually see here, I don't know if you can see, but you can see this little blue knob down here to show the size, well, the end of the table, okay? So if I wanted to make this table a little bit bigger, say I wanted it to be up to 50, for example, there is a few things I can do. I can also just drag this thing down to 50. And you can see now it's down there, and all the other cells have pretty much adapted the same format that the table has. Okay. I will Control Z to go back to the way it was. But you can also resize the table. If you went to the table design toolbar and clicked on resize table, then you can see that Excel is asking you which size you want to give. So here, just what I did just now, I'll just change it to F50, right? And look down here, and it did exactly the same thing by just pretty much extending our table down to 50. If I wanted the table to go all the way to here, meaning I have to move it from F to I, in the same way, I'll just go into the table, go to table design, click on resize table, and instead of stopping at F, I can take it all the way to I, for example. Okay. And now you see Excel has added some additional columns for me with the good old column 1, 2, 3, and you can decide to change this to whatever you want. Maybe age, right? Salary, whatever. Start date, for example, right? So now you have a bigger table that is now all the way up to column I and all the way up to row 50, right? So that's how you can change the size of your table. Okay, any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward. All right.
Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Yes.
On tables, I was thinking that when you start adding your data in the table, it just automatically adds the table for you. I don't know that you have to do it manually yourself.
Yes, it's also automatic, but you can also do it manually. You can just decide to add something here. For example, what other employee data we can have? Department. I have department here already. Let's say country, right? Now, if I press enter, it will automatically add that one to the table. So yes, you can do it by just adding data to your table, and it will dynamically resize the table for you, or you can just manually resize the table from here. Okay. So yeah, that was a good question. Okay. A few other things you can do with tables is you can use what we call slicers on a table. Okay. If I go back to table design, now there's some other things we can do here. I'm not going to talk about pivot tables right now because we will come to pivot table very soon. And then remove duplicates is pretty much the same as the remove duplicates that we did. I don't know if we did it, but if I wanted to remove duplicates based on, say, based on employee name, I could just uncheck all of them and select only one employee and click on OK. And now it has removed 38 rows. Yeah, I think I remember that we did this with normal data, right? And now you have 8 unique values left. Okay, I'll just Control Z to bring it back. And yeah, convert to range we talked about. Now we can talk about slicers. So what
Can
are
I ask a
slicers?
question, please?
Yes.
On the removing duplicates, can we remove duplicates in the range, in the cell range at once, instead of filtering for each data? Can we remove the duplicates for an entire workbook or a sheet rather?
You can, but the thing is you must select which column you want to remove the duplicate on. Okay, if you wanted to do it the traditional way, you go to data, and this was the remove duplicate, the one we talked in the last class, right? But then again, it gives you the same screen, and you must select on which column you want to remove the duplicates. Okay, and you can also select on multiple columns, say employee and department, and then it will just remove all the employees with the same department from your list and leave only one unique set of data, if that's what you're asking, Florence.
Yes, because I could see that when you were clicked on the remove duplicate, there is an option that says select all.
Yes, exactly.
So if I had done the select all, would it affect all the columns, as I'm saying? If you
Yes,
do the
yes.
select all.
Then it means all of them are checked.
Yes.
So if there is any duplicate column, you can see, for example, there's 8 columns here that have exactly the same value on all of the cells. And it has removed the 8 and left us with 38 unique ones. So
Thank
yes,
you.
so it just depends on what you have selected. Yes. I think that was because we added a few lines in the last class, like this one, for example. This one obviously is a duplicate line. You can see it's the same as this one. These two are the same. These two are the same, and maybe there is some more duplicates. I don't know, but yes, that's how you remove the duplicate from the entire sheet, just based on what you have selected. All right. So slicers. Slicers are just basically visual filters. Okay. I think I can delete this one for now because we don't need it. And I will, just for illustration, add a few more empty rows at the top. A slicer is the filter. So basically, if I wanted to see all finance, I could do that and click on finance. And then I have finance. And if I wanted to see in finance which tasks are in the data, I can come here and maybe select budget review and client follow-up. And you can see only 2 of them. But you can see how many times I had to click. I had to click on this and I had to click on this. And again, remember the problem we talked about when we be advanced filters that you cannot see which filters you have applied. That's another thing that slicers can help us to kind of visually see what what filters we have applied on our data on what cells. So let's see how to do it. So click anywhere inside your table and click on Insert Slicer. And here it gives you all of the different columns and it's asking you, what do you want to insert the slicer on? Let's say I want a slicer on employee, for example. I'll select only employee and click on OK. And then it kind of gives me this group of kind of buttons that, are clickable, right? And if I click on Alice, for example, you can see it has just done a filter on Alice automatically, okay? And it's so visual because you can see what is selected and what it represents in terms of data on this side, okay? And Bob, so see how fast it is for you to go and make a filter on your data, okay? And you can also filter on multiple values by, enabling this, there's a multi-selection button here. If I clicked on that now, you see it's kind of enabled and I can, click on more than one at the same time, okay? Remove, add Ethan. If I wanted to see only Alice and George, then I could do that, right? The other way to do this multiple is if I unselect that, for example, now I can only select one at a time, okay? The other way to select multiple is to hold Control key on your keyboard and just select multiple items. And it pretty much does the same as if you have turned on this one. And to clear the filter, there is a clear filter button here for you, and you can click on that and your data is cleared. And now you see everything again. And you can add multiple filters. So if I wanted another filter on department, for example, I just need to make sure I'm inside the table, go to table design, click on Insert Slicer. I want one for department. I click on OK, and I have another slicer. And I can just move it side by side. So now I can really just visually see what I'm doing. And it's okay, I want to filter on Alice, and I want to filter Alice in the HR department, in the finance department, and that's it, right? Or I want to see people in the IT department called Ethan, and there we go. The tasks for Ethan in the IT department, or yeah. So you can put in as many slicers as possible, and it enables you to make multiple filtration on your data. And that's really, really handy. It's one of the things that I use a lot in my work as an Excel user. I use slicers all the time. So you see, in the previous, examples where we talked about data, we didn't have the possibility to, easily just slice into our data to find what we're looking for because they are not tables. So that's one of the advantage of converting your Excel data from just a normal table to an Excel table, as we have done here. Also, when you select a slicer, you will notice that the slicer tab pops up automatically, which also helps you to customize your slicer. You can see here that the slicer, kind of has what is called a caption. So you can in fact change the caption. Say, for example, you wanted employees instead. You could do that, and you can see that the caption here has now changed to employees. Or let's say, I could say employee list, for example. Now, this does not affect the table in any way. It's only just something in the slicer itself, right? So you can change the caption on this one. There are a few other slicer settings that you can do, okay? You can decide to change the way it looks, kind of what we did with the table. If you wanted to have this orange, orange style, yeah, you could do that. You could if your slicers were kind of like this, you can see one is overlapping the other, and that's where you need this arranged set of buttons here. You could say you want the department to be in front, so you can click on, you want the employee list to be in front, you can click on employee list and click on bring to front. And now it's kind of in front of the department. But that's also not looking very nice. Okay, I'll just zoom out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's also not looking very nice. There are a couple other things you can do. You can decide to align, right? And for you to align, you have to have, more than one slicer selected. I selected the second one by holding on Control and clicking on the next one, right? So that's how you can select more than one slicer. And then you can go to Align, and you see that all the Align commands are now active. If I click away and click on just one and go to Slicer Align, you see they are not active. But if I select a second one but by holding Control and clicking on it, if you go now, you can see that they are all active. So let's see what Align Left does. You see it's kind of aligned them. Both of them are now on the same line on the left, but it's not very good. Align Center kind of puts them in the center. So these are just alignment commands. Okay. You can decide to do some kind of distribution. Let's say I move it to the side. Okay, first of all, let's say they were in the same, they were not overlapping each other, but they were not in the same line. And you like to, like me, make your stuff look nice. You can highlight both of them, go to the slicer settings, go to Align, and align them, say, to the top, for example. And now they're kind of in the top, right? If you wanted to, say, make them the same height, for example, you could decide to change the height properties here. Sorry, this one is for the button, and this one itself is for the slicer itself. Let's see what the height of this one is. It's 1.52. Let's make both of them, let's say 5, for example. So I'll highlight both of them, and I'll come here and then I'll just type 5. And they now have exactly the same height. But now you can see that some of the data is kind of chopped up from the screen. You can decide to increase the number of columns that are on display of the slicer by just, clicking this. Now you have a 2-column slicer box. And now you can see all of the information, which is quite good. And they're both kind of the same size. I think I can also make it a bit shorter than this just to save some extra space. Can I make it 4 centimeters? Yeah, that looks quite nice. And also I will force both of them to have the same width by selecting one of them to see what the width is. It's 5.28. And I can select the other one and maybe just make both of them 5 centimeters. Yeah, that looks pretty good. The other thing you can do is to group them. Say I wanted them to be sitting up here, right? I'll just add a few more spaces. I want them to be here, right? And here. But you can imagine if I had more slicers and I had to move all my slicers at once, then that could become a pain because I have to click them one by one and resize and do all of that. That's where this group functionality comes. Now, if I highlight both of them and go to slicer, I can decide to group them, okay? So now, let me just zoom in a little bit more. Now, if I click once, you can see now that, I'll just push it down a bit. You can see now that there's a border around the 2 of them, okay? Meaning I can actually just move them together as against what I did just now by moving them one by one. So that's really, really handy to be able to group stuff, okay? And now you can see it's now called it a shape. So this is, it's because I'm selecting the whole group, it's giving me the shape format command. But if I now click on one individual slicer, it then brings up the slicer controls for me again. Yeah. And yeah, let me see. Yeah. So that's for shape. So you click once. When you have grouped, you get some shape commands, okay? And then, of course, with its own set of data of controls here, and you click on any of the individual slicers, and you can see the slicer controls themselves, okay? And of course, once you do that group, then you can also ungroup by clicking on group. And now it's no longer a group. If you click now, it's individual. I'll make it a group again by clicking on both of them and going to slicer, group, group. And now you have that extra border around the slicers because now it's a group of slicers. Okay. Any questions on slicers?
Yeah, I just want to ask if I have like more than 20 columns in my file, my sheet.
Yes.
Can I as well make a slicer for those 20 columns because it will be looking too busy? I can, right?
You can do it. Of course, you can do it. It just depends on your needs. If I wanted to add another slicer based on tasks, just make sure I be inside here, click insert slicer, task, and I have another one, right? I can bring it here, resize it, make it 2 columns or 3 columns as the case may be, make it wide, and now you have it. If I wanted another one, I could just keep adding slicers as much as I want. And they all work. Okay. So if I want to add that one to the group of slicers, I could go there and click on group. And now you see I have one big group of slicers that I can move around as I wish. I can do whatever I want to do with the group of slicers. Okay. So it's really good. It helps us to easily filter through our data to make sense out of what we're looking at. And doesn't matter how long the data is, the slicers work anyway, as long as the data is formatted into a table. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay. Now let's, I will just move. Okay, I can leave them. I'll just, let's say I wanted to, I'll delete this age column. You can delete a column by, in fact, just clicking like this. When you are on the column, you can see this little black arrow. Once it appears, you can click on it. Now it's kind of highlighted all of the cells in the column, and you can right click and click on delete. And then it asks you if you want to delete the rows or the columns. In this case, I want to delete columns, and now the column is gone, okay? And you can also highlight on multiple and delete them as well. So let's say I want to calculate salary, for example, okay? Now, when I do that, you can see it has automatically added one more column for me and kind of changed the size of the table. And let's say these employees, their hourly rate is say $15, right? And they have logged these number of hours that they have worked. And now we want to calculate their salary for the task that they have done. So I can come here, and it's a good idea to actually remove the duplicates now, because now we're talking about money. So that question that was raised before, I think we can take care of that now, remove duplicates, and I can just say, okay. And now I don't have people doing the same tasks twice in my list, okay? Now I say here I would need a formula that will be the hours worked. Now you see what happens when I click on that cell. It doesn't tell me F11 anymore. It just gives me this, set of text that says hours logged with this @ and it's in a, square bracket. That's because when you are working inside of a table, you can actually reference content by the name of the column. Okay, in this case, the name of the column is hours logged. So you just need to add this, Excel does it for you automatically, but you can read the formula a lot easier when it's, actual text that you can read instead of just, A5, B4, F6. That's a little bit difficult to read, right? So it's the number of hours times, let's say, the $15 an hour, right? So that means that Alice on this task for finance has spent 73, has earned a salary of $73. And you can see what happened when I pressed enter on my keyboard. Excel has automatically put that formula in all of the column, for all of the values in the column. And it's just done that automatically because tables, once you put a formula in one cell of a table, as long as there was no data in that table before, Excel will automatically fill up all of the cells with the formula that you have selected. And you can see that it's just the same. So even as I move, keep your eyes on the formula here. You can see that as I move from one cell to another, we don't see a change of the reference because when you have the @ here, it's kind of just telling you that you're looking at the hours logged for this particular row. And there's no need to say F5, F6, F20, and so on anymore when you are inside of a table, okay? And of course, I can give it a format because it's money we are talking about. I can go here and change that to kronas, for example, right? And now it's currency and its value, or I said dollars, right? You can also just right click and go to format cells, number, and change the symbol of the currency to US dollars, this one, okay. And now it's like this, right? So that's how you can use formulas inside of tables by just using the name of the column. If I wanted to maybe do another example, I'll maybe just insert another column here. You can insert a column, the same way I deleted by right clicking. Once you have that, that arrow, this arrow showing up, just right click and click on insert. You can either insert it, you can insert a column to the left. That's the only thing you can do. And then you can change the name to say, let's say, I don't know, start date. Yeah. And if you could also just insert on the big row here and it gives you another column here. So let's say I wanted to see the date difference, right? Between the due date and the start date. So let's say these people, they all started on the 1st of January, 2025, right? And I will just repeat the data all the way to the bottom by holding Control Shift and up. Now I've selected all of the data and I can do Control D to repeat the data down, okay? And then I can do a difference between the dates by doing, say, the start date minus the finish date, okay? The due date. And let me see, I think I have a format problem here. Let's format it as a number. There we go. Is my date in the past? I did. In fact, I should do due date minus that date minus just to make it positive. And you can see as soon as I did that, the formula just repeats itself for all of the column. Automatically, I'll delete this one that doesn't have any data. Yes. And now you see I have a clean, well, it's not just a number, it's general, in fact. There we go. This looks a lot better. But the good thing is you can see it's just text where we're just saying due date minus start date. We're not referencing cells. We can just reference the cells based on the title of the column here, due date, and you put it there in the formula. And now you can have your date difference. So that's how you can use formulas inside of a table by just referencing the title of the column on of the particular cell that you want to reference. Any questions on this one? All clear? Someone has left a message in chat. Let's see. Clear. Okay, very good.
Hello, how are you?
Okay. All right, let's move to the next area. So this is just to cover, creating tables, creating and using slicers, using formulas inside of the tables, and also, just adding some kind of style on both the table and the slicers. And that was the end of the data, well, it's an introduction to data management in Excel. And now we move on to the next section, which is charts and visualization. For that, I have created another sheet here for charts. Okay. So we'll deep dive into charts right now. I made a number of, exercises that we can work with just so we can have some practical data that we can use. Just add a few. So a chart basically is just a visual representation of data, okay? You want to be able to see, for example, this sales data where you have several months of data and how the sales have gone for product A, product B, and product C, okay? You want to be able to see that visually in a chart. For that, you have this insert column here, insert tab here, where you can, under the chart section, you can see all the different types of charts that you can use for your data. Let's look at the first one, create a line chart. The goal here is to show the monthly sales trend for each product, okay? Good. So, well, we can already see the data that this is monthly and this is one product. Let's do the monthly sales trend for product A, for example, okay? To do that, well, one quick way to make a chart is to highlight the data that you want to put into a chart, okay? And then you can go to the Insert tab. One very quick way is to, try to utilize this recommended chart command here, which will already try to give you some charts that you can use, okay? Here you can already see it's telling you that you can use a cluster chart, you can use a line chart, you can use a pie chart, as the case may be, okay? These are what Excel is recommending for you to use. And of course, you can decide to say, okay, you don't like the recommended ones. You want to see all of the charts in Excel. And then you can see all the different charts, pie charts, bar charts, area charts, tree map, histograms, right? Column charts, and so on, okay? So the example is asking us to use, to make a trend, right? Show monthly sales trend. And for that, I think a line chart will make sense, okay? So I click on OK, and now I have a line chart on my screen. As simple as that. So you can see here, I'll just make it a bit bigger, the sales amount. So here, this is broken into, rows and columns. So the horizontal is the axis, which is the months in this case. And you can see when I select on the chart, it kind of tells us where the data for this chart is coming from. And in this case, it's months. And then on the vertical, you can see the sales volume and it's also highlighted with the blue, blue background and blue border. Okay. But the example has asked us to create for all of them, right? For each product. Okay. So now we have been able to make it for one product. How can we make it for the others? That's where we have to know how to add more stuff into our chart. If I click on that chart, you can see that we have just product A values in the chart. How can we then add product B values? There are a few things you need to know about charts. And as we saw when we looked at slicers, for example, when you select an object, you can see that the custom tabs for that particular object pop up in Excel. Okay. If you select that, there are a number of things you can do here. You can, add some other elements to the chart. Okay. You can change the layout. You can change the colors. You can change the style, just as we did with table. So you can make it look different from the way it came originally. Okay. You can manage the data from here. Okay. And we'll come to that shortly. You can change the type of chart. Just now we chose line chart, but you can also just change it to column chart, for example, right? And I'll change it back to a line chart. So some of these controls that you have seen up here under the chart design and chart format, you can actually see some of them when you clicked on this plus button here. You can see the different chart elements. You can see the axis. So axis is you can know if you just click on it, the horizontal and the vertical. So these numbers and these months here are the axis. So you can, if you didn't want to see that on your chart, you could remove them, right? And you can add them. So just toggle the buttons. The axis title, you can see here, axis title, okay? Which of course you can customize to what you want. Here I can decide to change this to, I'll just delete that and say sales value, okay? And now I have some kind of axis text here. And here I can change this one to months. Okay. So that's your axis titles, and the chart itself, the chart title itself, you can remove it or add it or change it. Product A, in this case, because I will have other products, I would say, product sales. So the title of the chart is customizable. You can add the data labels. So the data labels is the data that represents each section of the chart. As you can see, for January it was 1,200, right, and so on, right. So these numbers here are the data labels. You can turn them off or on, as the case may be. Well, if you select just one, you can toggle one off or on, or you can toggle all of them off or on, or if you just selected only one, then you can toggle just that one off or on. Okay. So yeah, just be careful when you click. If you click on the labels the first time, it highlights all of them. If you click on it the second time, then it highlights only one of them, the one you have selected. Okay. Yeah, data tables, so when you click on that, you can actually add the table that makes the chart at the bottom of the chart here. Okay. And so on. So you can add, like, this these lines here are grid lines. You can remove the grid lines, right, and add them. Legend is to tell you this blue line what it is actually. It's product A, and you'll see more legend when I add the other products. For now, I'll just remove the data tables, and I'll leave data labels for now. I'll remove the axis titles just to have more room, okay? But play around with these chart elements, on your own. Take a data set, create a chart out of it, add, manipulate these chart elements until you feel very comfortable to play with them. All right. Now let's add. So far, any questions on charts before I continue? All right. So it was quite basic. Highlight the data, go to insert, use recommended charts if you want, or you can also just click on the exact charts here. In this case, we have used the line chart. There's a number of line charts or column charts and so on. Okay. Now, how can we add product B to our chart? To do that, there is a number of things as well that you will see when you just right click on a chart. Okay. You can see some, formatting command, but there is this one called select data. Okay. When you click on that, you'll see this select data source window or dialog box, right? And the first thing it tells you here is what is the chart range? So what's the range of data that makes up this chart? At the moment, you can see that we are selecting only from A6 to A12, but in fact, we want it all the way to D, right? So we can either just delete that and rearrange our chart, okay? And you can see that it has automatically added some additional entries right here. And this is almost the problem solved because now we have product A, B, and C in our chart just because we have changed the range of data in the chart. And you can just go ahead and click on OK, and now you have it. Okay. And that's this first goal accomplished. We have been able to create a chart, a line chart. We have been able to, of course, based on months on the axis, on the x-axis, and the figures on the y-axis. So that's what we have done. And we have included all the three products, so product A, B, C, and we have added the data labels, which is these things here, right? Data labels, which defines the quantity of sales for each of the products. And I told you I was going to show you a bit more about the legend. So if I now bring legend, now you can see some kind of explanation of what the different colors of the lines, what they mean. That blue means product A and orange means product B, and this gray color means product C, okay? So I can say that this goal is now accomplished. Do you have any questions on that so far? No questions? All right. Let's look at the next one, okay? And this one says, compare total sales for each product in a bar format, okay? It's kind of like what we have done here, but now we need it to be a bar chart, essentially, okay? But no, it's asking total sales, okay? So we need to kind of add the sum of each product, okay? For that, we need to add some kind of sum here. And we will use a formula, a function called sum, and we highlight all of the sales. close the bracket. Now you see that product A has done 9,000, and you can highlight all of the cells and just type Control R on your keyboard. And it's asking us now to sum the sales for each month from January to June. We have done that. Done. Then create a clustered column chart to compare the total sales. All right. For that, we will do it a little bit differently. I'll just make this one a bit smaller. We will go to the Insert toolbar, the Insert tab, and click on, in this case, we want a clustered column, which is, well, we can also just select this recommended charts icon to see all charts. And we said we want a clustered column, right? And on that column, you can see that the first one here is a clustered one. We can select that and click on OK, right? It kind of gives us a clustered column for everything, including the sum. But in fact, what this exercise is asking us to do is to make a clustered column for the sum only, right? To compare the total sales, this one, the sum. What we'll do is to remove January to June because we only want to see sum. To do that, we'll go back again to right click and click on select data. And now you can see something that here we have on the horizontal, which is what we can see here, January to June, we only just want to see sum. So in fact, we can remove all of these months and just leave only sum and click on OK. And now you see only sum, okay? And of course, if you wanted it to be easy to read, you can add the data labels again here. And now we can see data labels and we can see bars for each of the included products. So this is the second problem now solved. Now, just before, because I know you might have questions, there are many ways to do charts, okay? If for those of you that have tried charts before, I'm just showing you different ways to make charts. You can either make just an empty chart and add the values manually. You can create a recommended chart and modify that recommended chart as I'm doing right here, right now. Any questions? Or are you lost?
No question for me.
Okay, good. All right. And, as I said here, it says here, format the chart with different colors and add a legend. So colors, basically, each of the elements, as I said before, you can format. So for example, I wanted this one to be, I wanted to change this one to something else to say, sales comparison, for example. I could do that, and I could, pretty much highlight that and go to format and say I want the text to be, let's say, blue color like this. Now you can see that it's a blue text. I can also just do other kind of text formatting. You can do the text formatting both from here and from the home tab, right? For text, I can make it bold, right? As the case may be. I can also just highlight that, right click on it and go to format chart title. Now this one is a custom formatting for titles, and this is, a whole section of its own, and you'll have to, play around with it a bit to get the hang of it, okay? If I wanted to format these data labels, for example, I could click on those, and you can see here that the format window on the right side has changed based on what I've selected. Just keep your eyes on this area and you see how it changes based on what you have selected to give you only the format that you can apply on exactly what you have selected, okay? So if I wanted say I wanted the whole chart itself to kind of have some kind of fill background. I could come here on that fill and change that to say this gray color, for example. And now you see my chart is now gray. Okay. So you can, play around with it, click on each of the elements. I can highlight on this label. In this case, it's not doing that because I'm using an aggregation. This is the sum itself, so I cannot highlight all of them at the same time, okay? But then I can see all the different kinds of formatting I can do on this data label. Say, for example, I want it to kind of have some kind of border, for example. I can say I want it to have a solid border that has this, let's say, I don't know, gray color. If I click away, now you see it has a gray color, and you can do the same for all of them, right? Solid line, gray color. This one, solid line, gray color. And now you have this, this format on the data labels. And pretty much anything in this any element in this chart can be formatted. I don't really like that gray background, so I can remove it. I'll just go back to and say no fill because I like it like this. And the maybe solid fill of white. It's white. And the grid line bothers me. I can turn it off from here, remove it. So it's kind of looking a lot nicer now. Maybe I don't like the border. You can also click on that. Instead of doing the formatting here, you can go to the format up here and also just change. The borders are called outlines. I can say I don't want any outline and say no border, and now it's gone. And I can instead give it a fill, which is pretty much a background of, say, this blue color, and now it looks like that, okay? So play with it until you can, make your chart to look like whatever you want it to look like, okay? It's just a matter of, I'll give you some exercises that you can work with that can help you learn more how to customize, more beautiful charts. I'll probably just give you a picture of a really good looking chart and some data, and I'll ask you to make the chart to look exactly like the one in the example. And the way to do it is just to select each element of the chart. Either you right click and go to the format data, well, the format of the particular thing you have selected, use all of these different parts of the format window. This one is for fill, this one is for, some effects. You can give it a shadow, a lot of things you can do. You can change the size, you want it bigger, you want it smaller. You can, and by the way, it's only highlighted based on your selection. Huh? And also some other, label options that you can activate here, depending on, and as I said, the options you have are depending on what you have selected. So select them, manipulate them as much as you can. There are also some other text options here. There's label options and text options. But you can see when I select the bar, there is no text option, okay? Here, when I select the values on the vertical, you can see the text option comes because I've just selected a text, right? But if I select things that are not text, like the bars, for example, you will not see any text options. So play around with it until you get the hang of it and make some really beautiful and good looking charts. Okay, it's already time for us to take a break, but do you have any questions before we go on a short break? Okay, very good. All right, see you. Let's come back at in 10 minutes, which will be 5:25 in Denmark and 4:25 in Nigeria. Okay, see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
Okay, sorry, I have to restart the recording. Okay, so the goal is to make a comparison between different products, okay? But in this case, we are only going to focus on the sums, okay? Like this. So I did it one way before by essentially just making a chart. I'll just insert a recommended chart. I use this one, and I have just gone ahead to select data, and on the horizontal, okay, horizontal, I've removed all the months, okay, and I've left only the sum, and I clicked on OK, and you have the three. But there is another way to do it. It's, in fact, if I just went to create a column chart, or I'll come here and select all the charts, select all the charts, and I select, well, let's say column chart, okay? It gives me all of that. Let me just highlight only the sections I want to make a chart out of, okay? So that it will not give me January and all of that, okay? And I can come here, insert, and go to charts. Now it will also just recommend me a chart that is exactly what we actually wanted to do, which was only a comparison between the three products, okay? And of course, I can go ahead and do all the other good things I did just now by, adding data labels, removing the grid, and changing the title to whatever I want, and so on, okay? But then you can see that Excel has only highlighted the sections that are contributing, the parts of the data that are contributing to this chart. And again, if you right click and click on select data, you can see it here that these are the series and these are the horizontal. So the horizontal is the values, the products, and the series is the value. So what is on the vertical is on this left side, and what is on the horizontal is on the right side. And you can also manipulate by editing that from here. You can change it. If, for example, I wanted to see the series name, and in this case, for the vertical, the series is sum, right? So I could just either just type sum here or just reference that value here. And then you can see that it's referencing the value, the series values is already highlighting this one here. So you could also, edit this as you wish, but I want it to be the same. I'll just click on OK. And now you can see it says sum here, right? And if I wanted only product A and C, for example, I could just uncheck this one. So I'll just be looking only at product A and C and click OK. And now you see the sum is now the title of my chart because I added sum just now. And I'm looking only at product A and C, okay? This is a comparison of product A and C. And if I wanted product A and B, for example, then I could just go here and just check only product A and B, and that's what will show up. B and C, that's what will show up in the chart. Okay. So it's only what you add to the chart that will display. But this screen right here, this select data source screen, will be your very good friend when you are working with charts, because you can use it to manipulate your chart as you wish, as much as possible. Okay. Is that
Can
clear
I
now?
ask?
Yes.
I see that when you select the data, we use the edit button and the check and uncheck. What about at what point can we make use of the add button?
That's if it's like the example we did. I'll just scroll here. Where's that chart? This one. I did it automatically here. But let's say I have 3 products here. I'll go to that select data. That's a good question, by the way. Bring it to let me just bring that chart here. Okay. And then I went to there. I could remove something from the chart. If I wanted this the lines to be, say, only product A and B, I can do that. Okay, and now A and B are showing here. But I could also, add it. I could add it either by doing it like this, or I could say edit the source of data, which is, well, in this case, this is product A for this one, right? And this is product B, okay? And say, for example, my chart did not include product C, and to do that, I'll just, pretty much use this, chart range to change it to C, okay? Yeah, so that C will not even be in the chart at all, okay? Now, if I go to select data, you will not see, so you see that product C was not even there in the first place. And now you want to add it. So you could do that and say that the name of the series is product C and that the series values is this values here. Okay, and click OK. And now you see we have just added it. But for us to display it, we have to click on the checkbox, okay? And now you have product C back in the data, okay? So like I said, this, and you can see that the select data range, the chart range has automatically just changed back to D because I have added the D value to it, okay? If I want to remove it permanently, I could also just do that and it's now gone, okay? And you see that my range again has automatically changed to C. I can remove B and I can even remove A. And now my chart is blank. I don't have anything in my chart. And I can add it again by going back there, click on add. What's the name of the series? Product A. What's the values in the series? These values here, and it's back. Okay. I add product B. What's the name of the series? Product B. What are the values? It's these ones. Okay. Now product B is back. And product C, the same way. And you bring in your values. Click on OK. And now the chart is back to how it was at the beginning. And you can click on OK. But now I can see that the horizontal values, the months are now messed up. So again, I go back to select data. I click on edit here. And it's asking me what is the range of values. And in fact, it's these values here, which is the months. And I click on OK. And you can see that the months are back. And I click OK. And I have my months back and my chart is back to the way it was at the beginning. Okay. And is that clear, Florence?
Yes, thank you.
All right. So because of time, let's just do one more exercise for charts, okay? We've covered a lot of concepts already. Again, just to cement this, watch the video a number of times, practice until you just fully get it and you can make any charts as you wish. The next exercise is to make show customer satisfaction category, satisfaction by category. All right. Now this is the data set we are going to use here, okay? And these are the categories, and this is the rate of satisfaction out of 10, okay? And again, just as we did before, highlight your data, insert recommended charts. Well, nothing is coming up, but then you can also just go to, recommended is just if it can recommend something, then it gives you. If it cannot, based on the data you selected, it will just be blank, okay? And then you can, manually select what you want. I can select that one, and I say that, and it's giving me something already, but the exercise is asking us to use a horizontal bar chart. So this is a different type of chart. These ones are column charts up here, and this is a bar. It's asking us to use a bar chart. Again, you click on the chart, go to chart design, click on change chart type. So now I want to use the same data, but I just want a different kind of chart. And here you have the horizontal bar here, okay? And you can click on OK. And now it's changed from vertical to a horizontal bar chart. And it's the same thing, or the way you manipulate all the data by, adding and removing stuff to it by, manipulating the data itself, right? You can change the range, you can add or remove stuff from your view. You can add here, you can remove, you can edit the same way. And you can also just format each element of the chart by right-clicking and selecting format chart area. Well, if you have selected chart, and then you will see all the different controls on the right-hand side that you can use to format it. And that works for each of the elements that you have selected in the chart. The title, the legend. Yeah, you can add a legend to this one. Okay, in this case, it doesn't make sense because we have only one column, right? So it's better to just remove it to save some space. You can adjust the width of the bars if you went, I think it was here. Yeah, well, the gap width you can change. Say you wanted it to be like this, then you see it's kind of a little bit wider, and the gap between each bar is a lot less. You can use that button to make it as big as you want or as small as you want. Okay, I think I like this like this. I remove the grid line so it'll look nicer. You can decide to add the labels, data label, and you can also position the label where you want it. Say I want to make this a really professional looking chart. I can just remove this but because it doesn't look nice. You can remove it even by just clicking on delete on your keyboard, and now it's gone. And say I want my rating to just say rating, okay? Now you see it's starting to look more and more professional, right? And I want these labels because they're not looking very nice. I want them to be inside of the bar. You can come here and go to, I think it is, yeah, here under the label option. You can choose inside end. Now it's inside of the bar, or you can say base. So now it's just pretty much at the base. And because it's not so visible, you can come here to the format and change the text color to white, for example. You can decide to make it bold, bold. Yeah, as the case may be. I can, yeah, I think it's okay like this. Yeah, you see now it's looking a lot more professional than it was looking when we have just created it, okay? So play with it, and you will find charts very useful in your day-to-day work. I think I'll leave the next one as your homework so we can move on. But is there any question so far? All right, let's go to the next topic. So on that chart, we've pretty much done just about everything here, okay? Sparklines, I'll leave this for you to just look at by yourself, but well, okay, maybe I should just show you. Sparklines are kind of like tiny charts that you can put into a cell, and it's really simple. You can click on the range of data as this one, go to insert, and just after charts you have sparklines here, so you can insert a line sparkline, for example, is asking for the data range, and that's this range that's selected. And it's asking which location do you want to display the spark. Let's say here, for example, and you click on OK. You kind of have this little line chart that just sits inside the cell. And you can just pretty much copy and paste into all of them. So you can see, that you kind of have product B not performing very well compared to product A and C, right? And that is for every month. So that kind of gives you some kind of insight that looks like there's something not going so well with the sales of product B. Okay, you can change these sparklines to other things. You can change them to column. You can change the type to column. If I just selected one, and and selected this, and I change the range to this, and it's the same location. Okay, now I kind of have this column looking style, huh? And there are many different types of style that you can select. Okay. So again, just as we did with charts, look at all of these different customization elements here and try to customize your charts, your, well, Sparklines as required. I like this one better. Okay. We've talked about formatting, so you can, make it look as beautiful as you want, decrease the space between the bars, change the colors, change the text colors. That's what this slide is all about. So we talked about this already. All right, and that's the end of the chart section. We'll go to something else now, pivot tables and pivot charts, okay? I want to try to finish everything today, so sorry I'm going a little bit fast. Pivot tables. So a pivot table is, well, it's a table. Why am I not able to see? Of course, this one. Yeah, there we go. All right, a pivot table is just a summary table that can help us get some insight of our data very quickly, okay? For example, if I wanted to see the total number of hours logged by Alice in the last, on the 29th, for example, just the 29th of or say between the 1st and the 5th of the month, then I will have to, come here and maybe put a filter here and selected Alice, and then I'll have to look at the dates to be sure it's within my date range. And I said of the month, so that's for May. So I'll have to remove June, and I'll have to be sure it's between the 1st and the end of the month, for example. So I have these 3 dates, and I'll do that. And I wanted the sum, so I'll have to come here and do a calculation of the sum. You can see how many things I had to do. All of these could have been summarized if I had a pivot table. To insert a pivot table, it's kind of like how we did with charts. You can go to the insert on the insert tab on the ribbon, and the first button you see here is the pivot table button. Click on that. It brings up the dialog box for you. It's asking you here, select a table or range for your pivot table, and Excel has already automatically selected a range for us, okay, which is good. Looks good, I agree. It's telling me that where do you want to display this pivot table? Do you want to put it on a new sheet, or do you want to put it on the existing sheet? And for now, let's do it on the existing sheet so that we won't have to change the sheet. And it's asking, okay, where in this existing sheet do you want to see your pivot table? Let's say on M, for example, here, okay? And then I'll click on OK. And well, it kind of puts in this thing here, but it's not so useful. But then it has popped up a pivot table fields window on the right side, which will help us to build our pivot table, okay? And for now, I'll just delete some of these to make it, to create more room, okay? And I can, the goal was to make, to see the number of hours logged by Alice. So you can play with this window here, right? At the top side, you have the fields, the different fields, which are the different columns of your table, okay? And yeah, it disappears when you click away. So just click on it again to bring it back. So, and then on the bottom side, you can see 4 different sections: filter, column, rows, and values, okay? Well, as the name implies, rows means, okay, what do you want to see on your rows? In this case, I want to work with employee names. So I'll just take the employees. You can actually pick pick a column from the top and just directly drag and drop it into the section at the bottom side of this window. And you can see that this pivot table here has automatically pulled in all of the unique employee values from this table into this pivot table. So it's actually a table that is living and it's linked to this data, right? And what I wanted to see was the hours logged. And for that, I would need to bring the hours log to the values section, okay? So it kind of helps me to do some kind of summarization of my data, right? So now it's so easy in one view for me to see for everybody how many hours they spent working by just bringing that particular field I want to analyze into the rows and the values on those fields into the values section of this, for the four sections at the bottom here. Filter just helps us to add filters on the pivot table itself. So if I say, for example, I wanted to see only work done in, the finance department, for example, I could bring the department into filters here, okay? And you can see what happened at the top here. A new part has just been added to our pivot table that you can actually use to make filtration. And I said I wanted to see finance, right? So you could select one item, or you could select multiple items by activating the select multiple items checkbox. Say I wanted to see finance and HR, then you could do that. But for now, I want to see only finance, okay? And I'll click on OK. And now you see that it has now filtered the list based on finance to see all the hours that each employee has logged in, only for the finance department. Okay? And the columns just helps us to see a little bit more information about what we have in our selection. Say I want to see, Alice has worked for 9 hours, but what has she done? What tasks has she worked on? I could move the task column into the columns section of this 4 square here. And you can see that Excel has helped me to do a distribution of all of the different values into the different columns that they have been added to. So for example, you can see here that Alice indeed spent all the 9.8 hours doing install software. But you can see that Diana has worked for 7.1 hours doing client follow-up and doing market research for 4.4 hours, which amounts to 11.5 hours in the grand total section here. And they have all been done for the finance department because we have a filter on finance department here. If I wanted to see all of them, I could just come here, select all, click OK, and you see I can see everything in a summarized fashion because anyway, I put the tasks here. And you can also just remove that and put, say, by priority, just to make the table a bit smaller. Now I have the hours Alice has spent on high tasks, on low tasks. This you can also use to make some kind of analysis to see if your employees are spending their time on productive stuff or on low priority stuff, as the case may be. Okay, is that clear? I will just go over it again because I know it can be a bit confusing. I'll delete this pivot table. You can just delete it by just removing it, okay? Now it's gone. A pivot table helps us to do summarization, okay? And to insert a pivot table, click on Insert Pivot Table. Excel automatically helps you to select the range. You can put it on a new sheet or the existing sheet. In this case, I want it to be in the existing sheet. I want it to be on K. I select K. Now K is populated there. I click on OK. Now I have an empty pivot table, okay, as you can see. But now I want what will show on the rows to be the employee names. So I drag employees to the rows section. I want to see, of course, the hours log. So I drag hours log to the values section. And I want to see only based on certain departments. I can bring the department into the filter section. Now I have a filter that I can use. I can select multiple items. So I can say, for example, I want to see only HR. Then I click on OK, and you can see it's only showing me hours that each employee has spent in the HR department. Okay, I'll select all again to display everything. And then I will, if I wanted to see based on priority, these 18 hours, how many hours has Ali spent on high, low, or medium priority tasks? Then I can bring the priority field into the columns so that I can see that a little bit better. So now I can see the split of where Bob has spent. Bob seems to have spent some good time on high priority tasks, low time, low time or less amount of time on low priority tasks, and on medium tasks, as the case may be. Okay, so with a pivot table, you can do, you can analyze stuff really, really easily. Any questions for pivot tables? There's still a lot more things you can do in the pivot table. And as we did with charts, when you click away, you can see that the ribbon, the tab for pivot tables has disappeared. But when you click inside the pivot table, then you can see these two tabs appear, the Analyze tab, okay? And you can see that also with pivot tables, you can have slicers. And if you remember, I said I wanted to see, for example, what she did only from January to June or May, as the case may be. You can also insert what is called a timeline for that, okay? If I click on insert, and now it's telling me, insert pretty much only just, populate stuff that has dates in them, okay? So if I say I wanted to see a timeline that is for the due date, I can click on OK. And now you see Excel gives me this kind of looking like the slicer that we mentioned before, but you can see that it's based on dates. So if I wanted to see, and it's in fact working with only the pivot table. Huh? So if I said January, for example, now you see that there were no hours in January, February, March, April, May, and looks like people worked in May and June, okay? And July, nothing, August, and so on, okay? And you can, in fact, change the view of this, well, this one is a timeline. You can change it to say you wanted to see, at the moment it's showing by months. You can change it to quarters, for example. Now you can see all the quarters. You can change it to years. Now you see, if we had more years, of course, you would have seen here. Let's change this one to 2026, for example. Change this one also to 2026. And by the way, I will just clear that so we can see all the data. When you make changes to your source data, your pivot table does not refresh automatically. So you have to refresh it by right-clicking and clicking on refresh here. And when you do that, you can see here that my slicer has now been updated to add 2026 data in it. Okay, so I can click only 2026 and you can see it's only the 9.8 hours, which is these two rows of data here, 9.8, that is selected. You can clear by doing that. You can change what you display to months. So now you see year and month. You can move your slicer using this scroll bar, okay? And you can analyze your data by just highlighting only the period that you are interested in analyzing, okay? Like that. You can clear as you wish. With this, you can see that we are starting to build some kind of dashboard. So if your boss, for example, wanted a report, it wouldn't make sense for you to send him, all of this data it'll make sense for you to send him some kind of summarized information like this, and maybe just add the sliders and timelines. Okay, you can also just add a slicer to this one. Yeah, like that. Say by employee name and say by department. Okay. Now I have two slicers. I put them here. Maybe a bit down like this. Then I can put the timeline at the top. Down a bit. Yeah. And tell your boss, okay, now this is all the data you can analyze for any period that you're interested in. Okay. Say he wanted to see only 2024, then he could just come here and change it to year 2026 and select 26. And he can also just see here that the slicers are, updating accordingly. Okay. Now you can see that the filter has automatically been brought here as well, just because I clicked it on the slicer. And if I clear, now it's gone. Okay. So a few other things, because sometimes when you add these slicers, they may not necessarily report to the correct pivot table. For that, you have to be sure that it's reporting correctly by right-clicking and click on Report Connections, just to be sure that it's reporting correctly to the pivot table, so that when you make a slice, then the pivot table essentially will update accordingly. Okay. Let me just be sure this one is also reporting correctly, and it is. Very good. And this one, very good. So all of these slicers are connected to this pivot table, okay? And the pivot table is based on all of these selections into these rows, filters, and columns and values. I know it's a lot to take in, but if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to trash it. Good. So we all know pivot tables. You are all familiar with what I've explained just now?
I think maybe when we go through, personally, when I go through the video, maybe it will be more clearer. Don't know for others.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Right. Yeah. So, well, that was all I was explaining just now, right? How to create, how to connect it, how to add stuff to the rows, the columns, the values, the filters. But you understand Remy, you understand the whole idea, right? Even though you don't understand everything, which you will get. But the idea is to be able to, very good. The idea is to be able to make a summarization of your data, okay? And make it easy, to make some kind of reporting, right? But of course, how to do it, I'm pretty sure you will get it when you watch the video again. Yeah, so that was talking about filtering and using slicers within pivot tables. And I also just showed you how to refresh. Just right click and click on refresh. You can also set automatic refresh, which do maybe we could look at that tomorrow, because tomorrow I want us only to just talk about do exercises. I don't want us to do new concepts by tomorrow. Right? So pivot charts is almost the same as normal charts, except that pivot chart brings a chart along with it. Okay, let me just make a new sheet just to show you real quick. Pivot charts like this. I'll just delete these ones that we made already. Okay, I'll delete the slicers also. Delete. To make a pivot chart, it's almost the same way. You just come here instead of clicking on pivot table, you come a little bit to the right and you'll see pivot chart. okay? And in fact, it will automatically give you a pivot table that has a pivot, that has a chart. So I'll say I want it to be in the same location. So I'll select M again. And now you can see this is a chart and this is the pivot table automatically, right? And as before, I can bring this to the rows, and I can bring employee name to the rows, and I can bring I think it was the hours on the columns, on the values. And now you see, as the pivot table is building, the chart is also building at the same time. This is so useful because now we have a chart that is already dynamically connected to the pivot table. So all you need to do, if I change this, for example, to my name, all I needed to do is just to refresh on the pivot table, and the pivot chart already dynamically updates without me having to go and do select data and manipulating anything here. You can see you can't even change it. You can't add, you can't edit, because it's dynamically linked to this pivot table. So any changes you make in your data, as soon as you refresh your pivot table, it will refresh this pivot chart that Excel has given to you automatically. So that's why pivot charts are very useful when compared to normal charts. And yeah, that's about it. The rest is just, formatting. You can see this beautiful dashboard here, from this data. You can convert your data into a beautiful dashboard like this. And this is just a line chart, which is what we have seen just now. This one is the horizontal bar chart, as we did. This one is a column chart. This is a column chart. This is a column chart. And these are slicers on this side. So you can already transform your data, the ones I know some of you are already working with on a daily basis, into a beautiful dashboard like this by just utilizing pivot charts. I can make another chart, for example, so I can, put that there and make another chart for another pivot chart for, let's say, priority. So this one is based on activities by name. I can make another one and call it priority. I'll go there, insert, pivot chart. I have my chart. I put it in the same sheet. I can put it here, right? And say, okay. And I want it to be, say, department and hours, for example. So for each department, how many hours has been spent working? Now you see I have two pivot tables on the same sheet and two charts on the same sheet. And I can, resize that. And now I'm starting to build a dashboard, okay? And say I want to bring another one. Let's say I want to see priority. I want to see a pie chart that's based on priority, for example. I can also just come here and go insert, pivot chart, same range. No, not new sheet. I'll delete that one. Come back here, insert, pivot chart. I keep it in the same existing sheet. This time I want it to be here. I click on OK, and I can say I want priority. I said priority and the priority. It's giving me column charts for all of them, but you can also just change the type of chart. So now I have these three charts here. Oops, close that. I have three charts, okay? I can change the type of chart here. In this case, I want a pie, so I click on OK. Now I have a pie chart there. This one, let's use a horizontal bar chart like that, okay? So now I have these three different charts, which is linked to the same data, okay? I can, because I don't like these buttons actually are used for, for example, you can make a direct filtration on the chart itself, okay? But I hardly use it, so I'm just gonna remove it. For that, you can come to the, chat analyzer tab on the ribbon and just, deactivate it. So it just pretty much removes all the buttons from the chat. And now you have a pretty decent dashboard, right? You have your data here, which is based on the three pivot tables. Okay. And you have 3 different charts, which you can in fact remove from here and put in a different worksheet if you want. That's how I do with my data is I keep things separately. I keep my data in one sheet. I keep my pivot tables in another sheet, and I just make one more sheet for charts so that I can display that only as a dashboard. Kind of as you can see here, you can see that all of these charts are in a sheet of their own, and the data is in a separate sheet of its own, right? And of course, you can also just bring slicers here if you wish by selecting each of these pivot tables, going here to the design and just adding to the pivot table analyzer and inserting slicers or timelines as the case may be. Okay, so that's how you can make a dashboard. This one is something that you will have to come back and look at over and over again until you can understand it. I know it's a bit confusing, especially when you have just learned about pivot tables today, and now you have to have 3 pivot tables on the same sheet. But at the end, the idea is the same. You have your data, you make a pivot table out of the data or a pivot chart, and pivot charts come with charts. You right click, and here you can also bring out the fields from here and add fields to the rows, the values, the columns, add filters if you wish. You can add slicers that are based on each of those pivot tables, and you can group all your charts in one area so that you can start to make some kind of dashboard. And in fact, you can split all of the data into different sheets so that you can maybe just have one sheet that only contains graphs, as the case may be, depending on your work needs. Okay, any questions? All right. It's already past 6 o'clock, and yeah, okay. This is where I actually wanted us to get to. There are a few other things which I'm not sure we can cover in the course because maybe we can do it tomorrow before we close. It's just a very simple introduction to macros. Macros are used to help us automate activities in Excel. So some of the things that we have done since the start of the course, we can try to see how we can make them automatic and maybe just put buttons on our sheet that can do stuff. We will talk about how we can protect our sheets. This one is also a very important topic so that when we share these sheets, people will not mess it up for us or destroy the data format and things like that, right? And if we have some time, I'll just give you a very quick introduction to Power Query, okay? So these are the last 3 things left in section 7. So my goal is to use the first part of tomorrow to finish all of these. And then the rest of it, we'll just do some recap and exercises and just try our hands on some of the tasks that we have not been able to review until now. Is that okay, guys?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
it's
okay.
Yes,
It's
please.
okay.
All right, very good. So thank you for today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach me in the WhatsApp group, and I will do my best to help you. Okay.
All
Would you
right,
be able to
sir.
share
Thank you.
the
I will
Thank you.
prepare some homework for you tonight. I will share the video. By the way, I thought it was better to put the videos on YouTube because it's a bit more organized, and then also we can start to build our YouTube channel and have people go there and watch videos and interact with the videos
It's
on
okay.
YouTube. Okay. So I'll do that just after the lecture. I'll upload it and I'll send you the link in the chat.
Thank you.
It's okay, sir.
All right. Thank you very much and see you guys tomorrow, same time.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Bye.